right. Welcome to another episode of Smooth Dev Saturday. Yeah, okay. I'm supposed to be looking here. Welcome to another episode of Smooth Dev Saturday. It is nice having you here today. Uh, Thanks for joining me. So I hope you've been learning some things over the past few episodes. We've had 7 episodes so far, and I hope you've been able to actually get some things ready. Just a moment. All right. Today we'll be trading languages and frameworks. Of course, I will not be showing any demos. I'll just be walking you through each of these concepts as they to be able to guide you to actually make you able to see some of the things you should look out for when you're trying to start with a new programming language, or you're new, you want to know what language you start with. Well, of course, I will not tell you what language to start with, to be honest. But what I say is, um, from the list of many languages available out there, just pick the one that you think works best for you. So yeah, let's get right into that. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so we're up again, and so on the last episode, we talked about working with databases, and we walked through different kind of databases that you can use, the Azure SQL databases, NoSQL databases, where I showed you some in Azure, and of course you can use them outside Azure if you so decide to do. So that's what we treated last week. If you did not, if you couldn't catch up last week, you could just go to my YouTube channel to be able to get that on. So that is youtube.com/Dara or Ladapo, DARAOLADAPO. So enough of the intros. Let's get into what we have today. Today on the show, I'll just be talking about different kind of programming languages out there and a bit of guides for you to get started. So this is for people who just want to start writing code. Maybe you think coding is something you want to do for your career or as a hobby. Yeah, some people do it as a hobby. So how do you start? What kind of projects could you work on? Or you just want to freshen up. Now maybe you've been coding some pretty old language and you want to just get in the era of the new stuff and catch up on what is going on in the world of we millennials. Yeah, so let's get right onto it. So I'll first talk about the popular languages we have today. There are tens and hundreds of programming languages out there, and sometimes yeah, they could be like, which one should I even choose out of all these ones? But I'll just list out the popular ones that I know. Of course, you might not, you may have heard of these languages, and depending on where you are, not. So the first language which I write is C sharp. I write C sharp. We have Python, we have C++, JavaScript, Go, Dart, Java, PHP, and Swift. Those are my own top languages. There are a lot of them, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100. Of course, there's Fortran also. But yeah, these days, these are one of some of the most popular languages that people actually write code in. And that is why I have them listed up here for you. Yep, so now one of the things you'll also get to hear when you're trying to get started with writing code is frameworks. What are frameworks? Frameworks are just a set of libraries and tools that enable you to be able to bootstrap and write your software faster. So, for example, you're trying to write for the web. There's some frameworks you actually use to do that. You want to write for mobile, you want to write for cloud, AI, and stuff. So, frameworks enable you to be able to give you that bootstrapping platform to be able to write code, and it follows some certain kind of construct and patterns. So that is what frameworks are as it relates to programming. So the first one that I'll talk about is .NET. So .NET is a Microsoft language. Now this should not be confused with .NET Core, which is cross-platform. So .NET is Microsoft's framework for writing code. So uh, in old times it used to be C sharp, VB, yeah, F sharp. Yeah, so that is .NET. .NET basically only works on Windows, on Windows devices. But the era now came where .NET became open source and cross-platform. and that is why we have .NET Core. So it means now that .NET can run on Windows, Mac, Linux, your smart TVs, your smart watches, your fridges, your IoT devices. It is just all out there. So that is .NET Core for you. So those are two of the frameworks that I actually work with myself on everyday basis. Also, there is Angular. So Angular is a web development framework that enables to be able to write uh, f- code for uh, front-end design. I'll talk about the uh, stacks later on in the today. So Angular is a web development framework for front-end developers. Front-end developers means developers that design web interfaces that communicate with some kind of APIs. APIs in this case means application programming interface. Those are the backend services that you write. Also, one of the most popular frameworks today is React. React is also a JavaScript framework. So Angular is a JavaScript framework. React is also a JavaScript framework. The difference between them is that the construct and the structure of the work you actually do, of your folders or your files, namings, routing, and all that, they differ, but they are still JavaScript. So if you have knowledge of Angular, you might be able to actually get into React, or React to get into Angular. So personal opinion here, I prefer React to Angular. Don't ask me why. Uh, so there's Angular, there's React.NET Core.NET. There's also Vue.js, another front-end framework. So we have Angular, React. So there's also React Native for writing mobile apps with JavaScript. Okay, but I don't have that listed up in here. Another one we have is Django. So that is a Python framework for developing web applications and also some backend services. Also, we have Flutter, which you write Dart as the programming language, but Flutter is the framework for actually bootstrapping that kind of scenarios. Then also we have Ember. Ember is also a web development framework out there. I won't go into details of that. We also have Express.js, we have Ruby on Rails, we have Spring. Spring is a Java framework for developing web applications and services. We have Symfony, which is a PHP framework. We have Laravel, also PHP, CodeIgniter, also PHP. And we have the popular and almighty jQuery, which has saved a lot of .NET developers in past years. So those are some of the popular frameworks we actually have today. There's a lot of them, but I just thought to list out all these for today. Yeah, so that is that. Then one other thing you will hear when you're trying to start your software development career is the concept of stack. So yeah, people say, I'm a mid stack developer, I'm a main stack, I'm a lamp stack, I'm this stack, I'm that stack. So I'll list out some of them, at least the most popular ones you hear of today, and I'll explain the different languages that come up inside each of them. So first one is Win. So I'm a Win stack programmer. Now don't ask me why I'm a Win stack programmer. Well, personally, I don't believe in all this stack. Then I just believe write code for to solve problems, but we'll get to that later on. So Win simply means you write your code to run on Windows, then you run it on I means IIS, N means, what does N even mean? .NET, and S means SQL Server. So you write it on the old Microsoft stack. So Windows, IIS, .NET, SQL Server. Then main is MongoDB for your databases, Express.js, Angular, and Node. That is main. We have XAMPP. I've forgotten what X means. A is Angular, I think. M something else, PHP and something else. So that is XAMPP. We have LAMP. We also have MEN. MEN is MongoDB, Express.js, React Native, and Node.js, I think. Yeah, so that is that. But yeah, that is why it comes here. This sort of sound confusing when you're trying to get started as a programmer and you start hearing all this confusing stuff. So when I started programming, all this stuff did not exist. I just now wanted to write code and I picked up language and I started writing it. So it may look confusing to you right now why all these folks are saying this stack exists. I'm a front end guy, I'm a back end guy. Why not just write code to solve problems? So that is what I'm actually trying to make you focus on if you're trying to get into writing code now. So I'll start with a few tips now, and we will walk through each of them and we will go from there. So what I advise you when you're getting started as a programmer is think of your target. And I listed this out in point, of course. So I'll say, what problems do you want to solve? So if you want to solve problems in healthcare, or you want to solve problems in agriculture, you want to solve problems in aviation, you will think of your target and you will select the kind of languages that actually are in use in that industry, because not all languages apply in every industry. If you're trying to go into the financial world with enterprise software, you'll have to know software like a programming language like X++, a mix of C Sharp, Java, and some other source all around it. So think of the problems you're trying to solve, and think of the platforms you're trying to write code for. So you want to write for Windows. Let's say you just want to write for Windows alone. You know, your language will probably be C Sharp or VB or F Sharp, as the case may be, or maybe even C++ if you just want to write for Windows alone. If you want to write for Android, you pick languages like Java, you pick languages like Dart, you pick languages like Kotlin, and that. So the platform you want to write for will determine the kind of programming language you will actually have to write. And if you want to go cross-platform with one single code, yeah, those languages are also there for you to select. So you think of the platforms you want to write code for and the problems you want to solve. Another point you will have to note is the kind of company you want to work for. So if you're trying to get into companies where they focus on operating systems like Microsoft, you'll have to know languages like C++ or C. Yeah, maybe even some .NET. If you want to go into Google, you probably write C, C++. You want to write for Android also, you learn those kind of languages. And if you, of course, you don't want to work for anybody, pardon my slang, um, you might have to think of the kind of project you want to build. You want to build a solution that does XYZ. You'll have to do your research and see, I'm trying to build XYZ. What kind of language do I need to be able to achieve this? And of course, now what I say to many folks is any language can do anything as long as the framework supports it. So it only depends on what your level of expertise in that language to be able to achieve those kind of things. So what someone will do well with Node.js, I will do with my C Sharp and I'll be fine. What someone would do with Angular, I'll do with my Blazor, I'll be fine. What someone will do with React Native, I'll do with my Xamarin, I will also be fine. So do not let anybody confuse you that this language is better than this is better than this. It is not so. Pick your language, own your language, and be an expert in it. So I'll also go to that one. So I said start with the language. It simply means, so as soon as you finish your research, you decide that this is what you want to do. This is the language you want to write. This is the problems you want to solve. This is the company you want to work for. This is the kind of targets. This is the kind of problem you want to solve. You start with language. So my best advice is you start with the simplest language that is out there in that stack. So one of the things my former manager used to tell me was sometimes you could learn and become an expert in language based on the project you're actually working on. And I found that true because okay, I'll show my coding journey later on today. So start with a language. Pick a language. Maybe you want to start with C sharp. Become good in that your C sharp, and then move on from there and progress in stages. So that takes me to my next point, where I tell you to grow. So you keep learning and amassing skills along the way. So I started writing with C sharp, and I picked some languages along the way. I added some more skills. I became a trainer. Then training is what I'm doing for a whole lot now. I'm a certified trainer now, so you keep growing and amassing those skills as you go along the way of your development journey. Now, another thing to note as a beginning developer is you stay open to new learnings and experiences. So when I started writing C sharp, I was focused on writing for just Windows alone, uh, even Windows Phone. But now Microsoft stopped support for Windows Phone. Am I out of my job? No. But I'm able to actually transition that my knowledge of C Sharp and .NET to apply to other fields that .NET supports. So now I write for web, I write for mobile, I write for cloud. If time comes, if the project for writing for IoT comes, I'll use my C Sharp or maybe C. I don't know. It depends. So I tell people my primary language is C Sharp, but I write some other languages. I write some JavaScript, I write HTML, CSS. I can understand Python. I've been able to help someone debug Python code without having to learn Python itself. So that is one benefit that becoming a master of your language. So the idea is when you start programming, the concepts of all programming languages are the same. They're based on conditions, they're based on loops, they are based on variables. They are the same concepts, underlying concept. It's just the syntax that you write that differs. So once you get to understand the basic concept, underlying concept of any of the languages you pick or programming in general, you are actually able to apply your knowledge into other fields and even help other people solve their problems. And that is what I say, that you should stay open to new learning and experiences. If I see PHP code today, I might be able to debug it. If I see JavaScript code today, well, maybe that is a little bit messed up for me to understand. But yeah, you are able to walk through all these steps and be able to become a better developer for that. So now, to just show you a little bit, so it won't look like I'm lying to you all the while, I will show you a track of how I progressed in my personal coding journey and where I am today. So this is how I started. I started with C Sharp, excuse me, writing console apps, and then from there I moved on to writing WinForms app. So for some of us that remember WinForms application, excuse me, okay, get that. So I wrote WinForms for some couple of weeks and I got bored of it. Then I moved to WPF, that's Windows Presentation Foundation applications. And then from there, I started developing for Windows phones. Then, as I developed for Windows phones, my Windows 8.1 came. Then I started writing apps for Windows Desktop, that was Windows 8.1, and Windows phones. I still have some of my apps actually in the Windows Phone store. Then I moved to Xamarin when I realized Xamarin came and it became free. So I was actually writing Xamarin before then, but because of license issues and all that, I had to stop. But when it became part of Visual Studio, free, I decided to pick it up again and I started writing cross-platform apps. Now I can write apps for iPhones, iPads, TVs, and all that. I write for Android today. And I actually have apps in the Google Play Store. I'm releasing some in the iOS App Store in some couple of weeks, if time permits. Yeah, so I'm able to do that. I then progressed to writing for web with ASP.NET. Then I started with Windows CWP development, writing apps for Windows 10 when Windows 10 was released. Then I started writing ASP.NET Core when it came out in version 1. And then, yeah, that's basically my journey. Yeah, of course, I picked up some skills along the way. I learned Azure DevOps. I became a Microsoft certified trainer. I teach a lot of people today. I I can't even count how many of them I've taught actually in this. And it started with C Sharp. That is how it all started. It started with me learning C Sharp, but see all the stuff I've gained along the journey today. So when I tell you pick a skill, start knowledge, well, that has worked for me. And of course, it might not be the same journey for you as it may stand. It may not be the same journey for you. I have to be honest telling you that. But you're able to see that someone has actually gone through this track and have been able to do it. So, and I hope that is some sort of encouragement for you to continue. Um, so yeah, I just listed here a little bit of the skills I picked along the way. I was able to write XAML, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PowerShell. I write a lot of PowerShell scripts today. I write YAML for my build pipelines. I write for Azure. I train on Azure. I do DevOps and all of that. So that is it for this week, basically. So on next week's episode, I interviewed a friend called Lawrence. He's been one of my friends for a pretty long time, about 7 years now. Where so he started this concept called test driven development, where he writes tests for his code. And I just thought it would be nice to actually have him come on the show to actually talk to us. So next week That is what we'll be having. I'll be having Lawrence with me. Yeah, it was so. Pardon the blurriness in the video. It was I don't know what I was thinking. I should have used a proper camera. But yeah, it's still viewable. So next week Saturday, I will have that up and running for you. And I want to say thank you for joining me today. And if you'd still like to follow me on any of the following channels, they're right up there for you to do so. And I say thank you once again for joining. And that's a wrap for this week on Smooth Dev Saturday. I want to say thank you for joining me once again. I know I've said enough thank yous, but yeah, I want to say thank you once again for joining. And I will see you on the next episode of Smooth Dev Saturday. Checking out, drop mics.